We said that March was going to show us a lot, and certainly March has been a very bumper month for us. We've been extremely busy. If I look at our auction magazine, which came out for March, we've had a lot of sales, and I think that we have got a real good trend of what's happening this year. 2011 did start with great expectation. The year has been tough. I think it's been tough for the property market. I think the Libyan crisis is going on in Libya, even the tsunami in Japan, is definitely weighing on people's sentiment, and I've always said property sentiment. And so it's been tough. Now, that being said, from an auction point of view and an auction lines point of view, that doesn't mean that we closed the doors and that business is extremely quiet. In fact, we've had a bumper month. And we've really had some great sales across the country, and we're seeing some really good trends. Now, in my last vlog, which I put out, one of the criticisms came that I wasn't giving enough facts, and that I wasn't actually saying exactly what's going on in the market in terms of pricing. So looking at the different markets and the different sectors of the market, yeah, I mean, the industrial market is quite interesting, and people often ask me what I think of industrial property. We've actually found that the market of the industrial that's particularly strong is in fact not really for the investor market, but more for the end user, the owner-occupier. And the buildings that we've been selling actually have largely been for owner-occupiers. And one of the buildings we sold was in Anderbolt, up in Gauteng, and we got ourselves a really good price there in Anderbolt. We sold it around about 2,800 Rand a square meter, which was a particularly good price, at 12.87 million Rand in Anderbolt. Jacobs in Durban was quite a strong market, quite low value, around about 2.8 million Rand. And then we sold a building near Kokstad, which is out in the KZN, and sort of out of the urban Durban area at 3.2 million Rand. And then quite a big site in Durban, near the old airport in Durban, is also at 9.2 million. So the fact is that in KZN, which is quite a large industrial centre, we've actually had a couple of big industrial sales this month, which is really good, and we were particularly happy about it. And in more the traditional older industrial areas, which does show that there is strong demand. You know, that being said, there's not the greatest and most enormous values, but certainly there's activity in the industrial sector. And again in Johannesburg for the owner-occupier market. The market that was particularly strong this month, in fact it was our biggest sector, were blocks of flats. And blocks of flats seem to be having high demand. I think that people are realizing that in a tough market, residential is a particular market which attracts interest. And you know, I always say you never land up with an empty building in this country, because there's a huge demand for housing. People are demanding housing all the time. In a country which is underhoused, we're not like Spain, where you see vacant land or vacant buildings. We're certainly not like Ireland, where you have towns which are just standing empty. We're not like Florida in the United States. We have demand for residential property, and we're finding more and more that investors are buying residential property because they can put tenants in very quickly, very easily, and they're getting good yields. Now, this has been a discussion for a very long time about is residential an investment? And I believe that right now in this market, if you buy residential at the right price, your yields in many ways are even larger than in fact on the commercial properties, because you let them easily, because you have almost zero vacancies, and most importantly, we're finding in the residential market that people buying at soft prices are showing returns. And so blocks of flats actually embody a really good way to buy residential, because you're buying, in essence, you're buying 10 or 20 residential units all put together. So the residential blocks here in Cape Town, my colleague Andrew Cohen, he sold the most blocks of flats in Mowbray in Cape Town, he sold in Greenpoint and in Wynberg, and really seems to be attracting big buyers in that market. Then in Pretoria, we saw quite a big development right in the centre of Pretoria, Pretoria Hof Hotel, it's known as, but in fact it's a 113-room apartment block that went for a price at 14 million Rand gross. There were further 2 blocks of flats which were sold in Hillbrow. Now, again, people always question Hillbrow. Hillbrow still big demand on our auction floor. We had a lot of activity for Hillbrow, for Braamfontein, for the city centre areas. And in Hillbrow, we sold 2 blocks at 22 million Rand. We sold another block of flats in Braamfontein at 6.1 million Rand. My colleague Gareth Botha seems to be dominating the sector in the Joburg city centre. And then in Carltonville, we sold a building at 5.5 million Rand. Again, same story in Durban. Durban, blocks of flats. The Ark Royal building right downtown Durban CBD, 5.5 million rand. Point Road in Durban, always been traditionally considered a tricky area, 12 million rand. And all these buildings get let out and strong demand. And then my colleague down in Port Elizabeth, Mike Bosch, he sold a couple of little buildings in Port Elizabeth as well. So yeah, we found it quite good. Retail centres. Well, this was going to be the month of retail centres, our shopping centre market is definitely, we noticed, a change. We are seeing certain investors in the retail centre are factoring an interest rate increase, although yesterday Jill Marcus said that there's going to be no interest rate increase. The Monetary Policy Committee met. There's going to be no interest rate increases. We found that some of the investors in retail are already factoring an interest rate increase into their bidding prices. Now, are they correct? I don't think so, but certainly they're doing it. And so whilst we brought quite a lot of retail centres onto the floor, they weren't enormous sellers this month. And I think, I'm a big punter of retail. I think retail is great. I think the retailers are doing well. If retailers are anchored by your national groups, there's probably no finer investment. Good governance, great areas. But that being said, I think we've noticed people a little bit jittery about retail. And the one building we sold, which we were very happy about, was in Alberton, called the Randall Centre, at 29.1 million, just short of 30 million rand. That was sold and confirmed this week. In Cape Town, it was a little bit more bitty. We sold some section title retail in Sea Point on the main road. Property is quite tightly held. I've always referred to that as the sort of trophy type of market people want to own in those areas. So, and we sold another little retail section title units in Somerset West, which was sold by Ryan Joffe. And then in Johannesburg and Selby, we sold some retail and offices. Developments, developments always come to auction because a lot of them are in huge distress. And the big one for the month was in a place called Hartenbos, which is down in the Southern Cape. That was sold at 35 million rand. We in fact had quite nice demand for that particular development. And then in East London, that was the surprise of the month. We had a vacant piece of land in an area called Amalinda, one thinks vacant land, East London, it's not going to do well, but surprisingly not. We had huge activity on that. We had 5 bidders aggressively chasing each other, and we sold it for 3.6 million rand. So there is some activity and some appetite for that vacant development land in those areas. So the agricultural market is a sector which we're focusing on, and this in fact was a great agricultural month. My colleague Peter Geldener sold the Emaweni farm, which is in an area called Valhart, a beautiful farm, and we sold that for just short of 30 million. It went for 29 million rand. And we sold yesterday a farm in the Free State, in Viljoenskroon, at 9.5 million rand. And then earlier this week we sold the Hululula Lodge in Hazyview at another 8.5 million rand. And by the way, all these prices I'm mentioning, these are sold and confirmed transactions. These are not just prices that we've achieved. Every single one of the sales I mentioned are sold and confirmed transactions. And when we say sold, we mean it's sold. And then lastly, the residential market. And we've certainly got a view at Auction Alliance that the residential market is seeing some deflation still this year. The residential market is still particularly quiet. We saw an uptick in 2010, but 2011 is showing that residential is not as strong, and certainly the recovery is some way away. And of course, that's presenting buy opportunity. We sold a fantastic home in Bantry Bay for 18 million rand, which is a great example. The property was on the market at 30, and we sold it and confirmed it at 18 million rand. Then in the V&A waterfront, always a popular area, a flat went sold and confirmed by Ishmael Hendricks at 6.5 million rand. There were some vacant stands in Fresnay, also sold and confirmed at 3.8 million rand. In KZN, there was a flat in Mshloti, good price, 2.2 million rand, and then Eagle Canyon, which sold a house at 7 million rand. All in all, a very active month, a good month for Auction Alliance, but it's showing us trends. It's showing us what's happening in the beleaguered residential market. It's showing us that blocks of flats are good. It's showing us that retail is somewhat cooled off, and it's certainly showing us that the agricultural sector is one of the bright spots in the economy.